This coming Wednesday, 17th December, is the last day to buy your winning ticket for
the Queen's Royal College 3-car raffle. First prize is a luxurious, fully loaded Royal Ride Ford Ranger. Draw date Saturday, December 20th at the school. Tickets only $100. All proceeds for the further uplifting of the school. Tickets available at islandetickets.com. Northern Hardware, Diggle Mountain Main Road. West Star Liquor Mart, Moncoco Road. Top Office, Belmont. Hearty Foods Arima. Charlie's Anchor Cafe. Corner Anna Street and Aripita Avenue. Frankie's on the Avenue. Quasi Discount Mart, California. Universal Plumbing, Diggle Mountain Main Road. Jumbo Food Supermarket, Barataria. GAK Electrical and Plumbing. Opposite Starlight. Bobby D's Bar, Crystal Stream. VML Minimart, St. Lucian Road. Authors Minimart, Balandra. Alums Pharmacy, Majuma Crossroad. Jurawan Auto. 4 Roads, Diggle Martin. Ortiz Meats, Moncoco Road, Diggle Martin.
Simon's Music, Board Street. Don't be lucky and coward. Get your tickets now.
Queen's Royal College Christmas 3-car raffle.
Fan Zone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
WESN.
Sometimes we get caught up in our little world. And yesterday I was caught up in the very personal and trivial negative emotions of watching one sports team lose a game that you felt they could have won, and lose in a manner that you felt, well, it didn't have to be that way. Lose in a manner that suggests they potentially still could have won. It wasn't as though they were overmatched. And that's the life of a fan, particularly when it's a sports team that you're far removed from. You know, at the end of the day, it's not that serious, it's not that important. And I say that because life kind of juxtaposed reality with the same day where, generally speaking, I am allowed to experience my fandom. Because, of course, in other parts of the world, things are not that serene. I'm speaking, of course, with regards to the situation that happened on Bondi Beach in Australia. I don't necessarily want to get too much into it, except, yes, by all appearances, it looks like a hate crime. You may determine how much that matters to you or not, because, of course, the whole issue between Israel and Palestine will color how the international community, whether for good or for bad, will view things like crimes against Muslims and Middle Eastern Arabic people and other Middle Eastern ethnicities. So that's religious and or racial, not always the same thing. And then, of course, against the Jewish community, which is oddly a bit more one and the same, as much as Judaism is a race and a religion, but not necessarily always automatically the same thing. But this was a Hanukkah celebration, or at least whether it was the Hanukkah celebration being targeted or the fact that it was perceived as a Jewish gathering. In the midst of all this, one of the most interesting twists is the fact that, not widely reported, is how some people there to spend their vacation, you know, they were caught off guard. There was one tourist, a young man, when the shooting started, it was relatively right outside the window of the house or apartment he was staying in, and his family implored him to go hide, which he did. In part because, and it might seem cowardly in comparison, but you don't know what's going on, and you don't know, if you're not trained, you don't know how to help. Then there was another video I found very interesting where there was a tour bus driving on the road in proximity to the beach, and there were some people ducking down, and there were others peeking up, and others still sitting up in their seats, holding their cameras, trying to record what was going on. Which, at the end of the day, when you see cell phone footage of dangerous and tragic events, I guess to some extent this is how it's captured, right? Somebody has to be whether brave or bold / ignorant to say, I don't care about the risks, I'm going to film. But of course, there was the intervention by one gentleman. And it puts a whole new spin for the better, I believe, on things like this. This is Ahmed Al-Ahmed, a 43-year-old man, so he's not that much older than me, a fruit shop owner. Father and son, because his parents, I believe, now moved to Australia, or at least were visiting. He ran up to one of the gunmen, I believe it's the older gunman, the father, and wrestled the gun out of his hands. And in the process, at some point in time, whether before or after, got shot multiple times in his arm and hand. Now, this is one of those things where you can't recommend anyone to intervene in a situation like this. You do so at your own risk. You take your life into your own hands. They have guns and they're willing to shoot at people. You're not. You're running at them. But I just find it interesting where the man being hailed as a hero, and I very much believe that his intercession interrupted whatever flow process that the gunmen were undertaking, interrupted their unmitigated attention of shooting at their targets. Because now here's someone actively struggling with one of only two shooters, taking his gun away from him. Well, it's not as though you could just continue unabated, right? We might underestimate the impact that he had on the situation. He himself might want to downplay it. But it's just interesting that the perpetrators of the crime and the civilian who most directly intervened, well, they share a similar background, which then perhaps, usually you're concerned about people taking an example of the former, of the perpetrators, of wanting to perpetuate a similar crime, to carry on, follow that example. Well, what about this example? To his nation, to his fellow citizens, to the world, and to his fellow immigrants from the Middle East, who might be wherever, around the world. Sometimes you just have to take a stand for the place you now call home, the people who technically are your neighbors, and more importantly, the values that generally you should be holding there, both from your country of origin and in your new nation. And perhaps it sends a different example, a different message. Whereas normally when things like this happen, it's easy for it to cast a dark cloud over an entire population. And thankfully there's an example to say, well, no, it's not all bad. Because statistically speaking, it never would be that the actions of a couple are going to be the full display of motives and behaviors and beliefs of an entire community. You have to see more evidence in order to label an entire group generally in such a manner. And we are provided with evidence to the contrary. I'll say this though, and I'll go back to a point that I was making earlier. This is not something that you should necessarily recommend anyone to do. Like I said, a young fella, much younger than Mr. Ahmed, he hid. He was willing to admit that he hid, which is one of those things where it really is hard for it to sound good when you say it publicly. But I hope no one necessarily comes down on him, because that is what the authorities would want civilians to do. Take yourself out of danger, because potentially when law enforcement comes to confront the situation, you being in proximity complicates matters more than helps. And most people untrained wouldn't necessarily know what to do anyway, could just end up getting themselves killed. I believe it's 16 people were reported killed, and several more wounded, included 2 police officers. One of the gunmen killed, the other gunman in custody. I'm not entirely sure if he was wounded himself. This whole thing. I still have hope in our nation because we haven't reached this point. The question is, to what extent will we be complacent, and we'll have to attach a yet to that statement. All right, I'll move on from this story. Continue on international news. There's a report that U.S. Air Force aircraft will be operating from the Dominican Republic. Now, the aircraft will be primarily logistical, transport, and technical support, probably for wider operations in the region. So it's C-130 transport or cargo aircraft, as well as KC-130 tankers. Now, the latter one, that's the interesting one. By having tankers positioned in the Dominican Republic, operating both out of San Isidro Air Base and Las Americas International Airport, essentially that will allow for aircraft stationed in the States either to more easily reach the Southern Caribbean, whether to transition to an at this yet time not declared airbase, or to carry out operations without having to touch down and then fly back north. Because you could do that. You could fly south, meet up with a tanker, go to near Venezuelan airspace, Venezuelan waters, do whatever it is that you were supposed to have been doing, and then fly back, meet a tanker again, go home. Yes, larger aircraft like a B-52, B-1 could probably do that already, maybe with larger tanker support, but this just makes the logistics a lot more streamlined, and it probably makes it more efficient to utilize single-man aircraft. Whether it be, well, I won't go into the details to bore everybody, right? What this means is that my concerns that they were potentially looking at our port and airport facilities for logistical support, well, they might not necessarily need to do so anymore, right? Maybe they found the situation not ideal, or maybe they never had that intention in the first place and I was just ascribing motivations that weren't there. Regardless, it'll be interesting to see how things continue. Is this just a bluff, or is this preparation? Because it does seem a lot like preparation, I'll be honest. Logistical systems in place to then actually do something. That, generally speaking, is how you plan a military operation properly. Inexperienced people speak about tactics, but wise men speak about logistics. Now, there is another situation. I have some amount of respect for the union leader, Michael Anisette. I do believe, however, that the environment that the unions are in leads the union leaders to have to do certain things, or else they're out of a job in that respect. That's, I suspect, what happened to the former leader of the teachers union. Now, regardless of whether I agree with the politics, with the negotiations, with the public positions or not, you'll never should celebrate personal tragedy, whether you disagree with anyone. And Mr. Aniset's son apparently was one of 3 victims in a car that was shot at, the only one to die outright as of time of the reports. The other 2 are in hospital for their wounds. He had something. Well, I myself am not necessarily even too sure of the meaning of what he said. I haven't necessarily internalized it that much. I just read it once and then thought, I believe that's a good point to make. As much as this is Christmas and it's supposed to be happy times, things are, I believe, maybe we need to be reminded, and you never want it to be in means like this, but Mr. Aniset went on to comment, I believe, to the press, life is a mystery that the ordinary mind cannot understand. In this physical world, the acceptance of what is and what you have no control over is the source of understanding and peace of mind. Life goes on even after death. And I mean, everything that he says there generally is things that I've thought of before. Maybe with more time I will pull something more out of it. It's hard, though, to accept what you have no control over and acknowledge what you do, and therefore only be concerned really about what you can control. I do find it interesting, though, that he says that I myself don't think I would be able to have peace of mind in the moment. Maybe sometime after. I already have a hard time just dealing with the murder statistics, with the COVID deaths, with tragedies around the world. I wouldn't know if I could react the same way if it was a family member, a close family member, like a son. I don't have children, so it would have to be something equivalent. I don't know how I would react. I don't think I could react as how he did. But I guess it's one of those things where, and this apparently I believe is, I'm not entirely sure if he had another son before that was, but it sounds like someone that was a bit more prepared with the realities of life. And perhaps we should also think about things a little bit more. Because while in his circumstances, it doesn't seem as though he, the individual, had the ability to control over that situation, right? He didn't necessarily have the capacity to control that situation, to prevent it. Society has the power to control what it can amongst itself. Society has some ability to affect change in things like this. Random acts of violence on an individual, assuming it is random, on an individual basis, it's difficult to say it can be prevented. It's difficult to say in hindsight, if we go back in time, how could we potentially have prevented it? But on a wider macro level, a descent into violence can be prevented by society looking to make change where applicable. The question is, are we willing to do it? Because he takes solace in the fact that, look, I can't be concerned over what I can't control, but here I'm going to tell you that on some level, we need to be a bit more urgent with regards to the things we collectively can control. And at the end of the day, unless we get specific evidence, there's no reason to believe that this is some sort of external threat, alien race, AI system run amok. No, this was a consequence of our society. And while it might not necessarily 100% be able to prevent this death, we can do better to prevent some of it. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, maybe I'll touch on the economic topic of the day. Stay tuned. This is Talking Point in WSN. We'll be right back after this.
This coming Wednesday, 17th December, is the last day to buy your winning ticket for
the Queen's Royal College 3-car raffle. First prize is a luxurious, fully loaded Royal Ride Ford Ranger. Draw date Saturday, December 20th at the school. Tickets only $100. All proceeds for the further uplifting of the school. Tickets available at islandetickets.com. Lewis Appliances, Corner Tragrit Road and Edward Street. Caribbean Jewelers, Trent City Mall. Mandarin Mini Mart St. Anne's. A. Moses and Sons, 181 Tragrit Road. Quaysay Supermarket, Calcutta Road number 2. Strive Restaurant and Bar, Mukarapa Road. Unique Tire Shop, Gopal Avenue, Tegel Martin. First Priority Music, Gulf City Mall. SNSR Food Center, Princesstown. Quaysay Best Price, St. Mary's Junction. Romaines Hardware, Maraval. Cascade Mini Mart. Kelly Supermarket, Tegel Martin Main Road. And at the following NP Quick Shops: Morva Junction, Saddle Road, San Juan, and Dinsley Junction.
Don't be lucky and coward. Get your tickets now.
Queen's Royal College Christmas 3-car raffle.
It's Christmas time, and with your family you'll spend every evening watching a movie on WESN. The classics that fill your heart with merriment and cheer as we celebrate together the most wonderful time of the year.
This is my island in December.
This Christmas, WESN celebrates with you as the content capital brings the big screen classics. Gather your family and tune in to WESN from December 1st to 31st at 8 p.m. nightly for We Christmas Movie Classics.
Santa's coming to town! Ah! Oh my God! Santa here? I know him! I know him!
Only on WESN, Content Capital.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
I've been feeling, and this is very, very anecdotal, talking to people, which again would be limited to their own individual experiences, that generally speaking, we have an issue, an economic issue, that perhaps might be going under the radar. But if you're in private business, maybe you might have similar feelings, maybe not. Some businesses, whether they are inelastic goods, so even with new customs and excise duties, they're not necessarily going to see demand shift. Perhaps though they might see units or volumes of sales shifted. Maybe even that might be unchanged. But I believe there will be some private entities that, well, things aren't looking so hot, right? This should technically not be a surprise. On some level, it would be, and it was, the mistake of some people, of which I will, at least partially, but probably, significantly, lump myself as part of this group. The hope was we have a new government, there's change, and hopefully we'll see some positivity in the economy, in the way how things are moving. And perhaps that was a little too hopeful, a little too naive, a little too idealistic. Because, listen, it seems like it would have been a fight to survive the next year and a half to 2 years and a half, regardless of who was in power. The ability to make aggressive changes without having corresponding significant sacrifices probably didn't exist. We didn't have that kind of leeway. Now, Archbishop Jason Gordon has said something that it's in line with what I'm afraid of, doesn't necessarily prove it, because again, he might have a handle on certain aspects of society and what he has been told, whether by parish priests with regards to how the church's operations been going with collections, how the various charitable organizations connected to the church, how their efforts have been going, how his own fundraising efforts and that of the church for NGOs has been going. And of course, people will probably talk to him and share with him their troubles. Even that, with what potentially is a wide encompassing viewpoint of the country, wouldn't necessarily give us 100% of the picture. And the report, it's not necessarily very expansive on the part that I want to single out on. But he made a statement at the blessing of the creche. And this is a quote, "The society is experiencing pain from poverty like we've not seen for a while." Very, very small statement, but the implications of his choice of words, that we have not seen for a while. He goes on to say, "We have all the tensions with the geopolitics landing at our shores and surrounding us. But when Jesus was born, we had the same kind of drama happening in the world at the time, where Herod, as a false king, as a puppet of Rome, inside of Israel, and the oppression of Israel, all the tensions were there." And then he goes on to say, Jesus came, changed everything. This Christmas, with all the things happening around, pull to the inside of your heart and find him. And then he urged people to give a gift to Jesus, who had blessed his people in so many ways, by reaching out or doing something for someone, which generally speaking, it's very interesting, the philosophy of giving from the church. One of the stories that you learn as a child, at least you used to, was the difference between a rich person giving more money than the poor person, but Jesus pointed out, well, the poor person gave more because they gave all they had. Now, to what extent now is this a message to say, hey, I know from my perspective you don't have right now, but perhaps you might be able to give more than you think, and it could go a long way, depending on how true his first sentence and all of that was. Because, of course, he's trying to both, yes, spread the message of his faith, but also that message has a practical consideration during this time of help someone, not donate to the church, reach out to or do something for someone. But that's with the backdrop of the society is experiencing pain from poverty like we've not seen for a while. Now, I guess the main question is, how long do you mean by a while? Because COVID wasn't that long ago when people had issues while the lockdowns were going on. But of course, that was not necessarily poverty in the traditional sense. So perhaps he's speaking of a different time. Myself and others I'm talking about have drawn parallels between the reality now with our energy situation and maybe the lean times of the 80s. Well, there's also, of course, the whole international situation as well with regards to policies. Central Bank, they have held the repo rate at 3.5%. It's unchanged for the last now 5 years. And they say there's diminished confidence and growing policy uncertainty globally have caused economic prospects to wane and financial conditions to tighten. Expansion in world output from the IMF is predicted to be lower than the year before. And then, of course, there's the whole situation of energy prices being affected by what is termed softer demand and a higher supply, which, ironically, again, when people say that Americans want the oil in Venezuela, it might not be that straightforward, because it seems as though right now we don't need the supply unless you factor in the desire or the potential desire to cut off Venezuela from customers. But that is central bank looking at the rest of the world and how it may or may not affect us. We import a lot of things. Our Heritage and Civilization Fund, I believe, is invested abroad, and we are interconnected in various global economic systems, particularly the energy sector globally. Now, Moody's has, well, apparently, this is one report. Moody's is concerned that measures outlined by the government to address the decline in foreign exchange may not be sufficient. And that is the reason why they have changed the outlook of TNT's government from stable to negative. The rating remains the same. The rating is the snapshot where we are right now. The outlook is the direction. And basically they're saying we haven't necessarily degraded from our position. It has been maintained. They have reportedly affirmed our position. But they're basically saying they suspect we are not going to be trending upwards. We're not going to be trending neutral. We potentially will start to see a downward trend. It's not guaranteed to be so. It's not guaranteed to be so, but it can happen. And I think at the end of the day, this comes back to the fact that our economy is to a significant degree driven by foreign exchange because many things, Dutch disease also then predicated a reduced importance of the private sector, of private sector manufacturing and food processing and independent production to provide us with certain goods and services. So it's Christmas time and we have a situation where things aren't necessarily easy, and there are indicators that things potentially are going to be just as hard, if not harder. One, a foreign agency looking at our situation internally. One, our own local central bank looking at international prospects, what it might mean. This is something to keep an eye on. And this is also something, I'll just say this, I'll go into more of the commentary tomorrow because I have to bring in our guests for today. But I'll just say this is something where I hope the political discussion does not devolve into nonsense. Because on one hand, if you want to start to say that I'm not liking what the government says so far, that's fair. But to condemn them, I don't think is fair. And also, you have to acknowledge that some of this, yes, the incumbent is responsible to some extent, but more importantly, the international or external factors that are pressuring the system, that is something perhaps both political parties have done too good of a job of not fully explaining to the public what it means, these external pressures, these external factors that are causing us significant harm. It's almost as though that they don't want to talk about it because it's better, whether they don't want to cause a panic or they don't want to make themselves seem incapable, although I don't know why they would believe the latter. Maybe they just don't know how to explain it. That we don't really want to get into the negatives about how things are going. We want to be positive. But the problem is when you're positive and it doesn't quite work out in line with your level of positivity, the public smells something fishy, to borrow a pun. And this is where things take a turn. And what tends to happen in the past is the politicians like, I don't understand why you hate us so much. Meanwhile, it's not about hating you, it's about the fact that perhaps more and more politicians should practice leveling with the people, being a bit more direct, being a bit more transparent, so that we can all move together in the same direction. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we have a media ambassador today to talk about Christmas safety. Yes, we're going to talk about it. Why? Because people still fall for some of the same traps throughout the year, but especially now when you're most vulnerable. We need to have this conversation again. Hopefully more people will pay heed. We'll be right back after this.
Wednesday, 17th December is the last day to buy your winning ticket for
the Queen's Royal College 3-car raffle. First prize is a luxurious, fully loaded Royal Ride Ford Ranger. Draw date Saturday, December 20th at the school. Tickets only $100. All proceeds for the further uplifting of the school. Tickets available at islandetickets.com. Northern Hardware, Diggle Mountain Main Road. West Star Liquor Mart, Montcoco Road. Top Office, Belmont. Hearty Foods Arima. Charlie's Anchor Cafe, corner Anna Street and Aripita Avenue. Frankie's on the Avenue. Quasi Discount Mart, California. Universal Plumbing, Diggle Mountain Main Road. Jumbo Food Supermarket, Barataria. GAK Electrical and Plumbing, opposite Starlight. Bobby D's Bar, Crystal Stream. VML Minimart, St. Lucian Road. Arthur's Minimart, Balandra. Alum's Pharmacy, Majuma Crossroad. Jurawan Auto, 4 Roads, Diggle Mountain. Ortiz Meat, Montcoco Road, Diggle Mountain.
Simon's Music, Board Street. Don't be lucky and coward. Get your tickets now.
Queen's Royal College Christmas 3-car raffle.
It's Christmas time, and with your family you'll spend every evening watching a movie on WESN. The classics that fill your heart with merriment and cheer as we celebrate together the most wonderful time of the year.
This is my island in December.
This Christmas, WESN celebrates with you as the content capital brings the big screen classics. Gather your family and tune in to WESN from December 1st to 31st at 8 p.m. nightly for We Christmas Movie Classics.
Santa's coming to town! Santa! Oh my God! Santa here? I know him! I know him!
Only on WESN, Content Capital.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas, and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation, contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
Remember waking up early just to catch your favorite cartoons? WESN brings back those magical mornings with Retro Saturdays.
Thus, the Powerpuff Girls were born!
Where the young at heart relive the fun. Join us every Saturday from 8 a.m. to 12 noon, only on WESN, the content capital.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for. It's called loss and damage, and we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region. Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
And we're back here and talking about WSN. Allow me to reintroduce myself because I actually don't think I did with all the heavy talk. This is the Christmas season and there's way too much heaviness around the world. Heaviness in Australia, heaviness in the Southern Caribbean, heaviness in our economy. And now we have to still be wary of significant, serious considerations when we're just trying to go through our everyday life when it comes to Christmas shopping and meeting family and traveling and being out and coming home late potentially and all of the above and having expensive gifts on our person, in our cars, etc., etc. These are things that have been spoken before and will be spoken about again, because unfortunately these are things that, at least for now, we have a reasonable expectation that they will happen and continue to happen. And hopefully it's up to you, the viewer, the listener, to internalize and try to make yourself less of a target. To speak on these tips, introduce myself, Sean Michael Small, joined by Inspector Kate Callender of the TTPS. Welcome once again. Looking very blue, very official today. Usually you have a fancier color scheme, but now you have a very official color scheme.
Yes, I am. Most married men, they say their wives just dress them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
is that your secret?
Yeah, so I take my dressing and fashion tips from my wife.
I mean,
Pleasant good morning to you.
She does a good job. I'm very impressed by this blue on blue on blue.
Thank you. I would echo it.
Yeah, as subtle as it is.
Yes, well, blue is my favorite color actually. I actually refer to her as the Minister of Home Affairs. Well, she's the Minister of All Affairs. So thank you for having me, and pleasant morning to Trinidad and Tobago and wherever you're listening in the world today.
Well, thank you for coming. As much as every year there's several of these topics as we go, you know, Easter safety, summer safety, Christmas safety, carnival safety. But it's one of those things where people at times tend to be too complacent.
Yes.
Right? And even when they know better, you know, they might have a lapse in judgment. And this is one of those things where constant reminders are necessary. Because, especially now, I just started off really a topic on our economic situation. And you have to add to the fact that, hey, you all just got 2 drug hauls last week, about 200 million plus of marijuana, right? The expectation is drug shipments into the country are drying up or reduced at the very least. So all of that now is going to impact the criminal enterprise, and Christmas is here, and Carnival is literally right around the corner from Christmas. It's a very early Carnival. And I mean, I'm sure you could tell us that, hey, you're going to see certain criminal activities increase because for some of them, this, you know, they want to get that extra cash. And if they don't have drugs to sell, it might be more of them looking to utilize, take advantage of people in Christmas for that extra cash.
Well, you're absolutely correct. Even without those, putting those things into the mix, generally around the Christmas time, you would find the Bandit Association of Trinidad and Tobago, for want of a better description. They are usually out and about looking to pounce on the unsuspecting citizens who are not safe or not protecting their valuables and stuff like that. So I want to start by reminding Trinidad and Tobago that safety begins with you. Safety starts with you. It begins with you. It is impossible for the police service or any other form of safety net, for want of a better word, to be everywhere. So you have to exercise that sound judgment, right? As it relates to protecting your hard-earned cash, your hard-earned valuables, your homes, your vehicles, and stuff like that. And around Christmas time, as you quite rightly mentioned, you see a lot of complacency stepping in.
Yes.
Where persons leave their homes unattended, they go out shopping, they have their entire hands occupied, they want to capitalize on all the goodies and the specials and the discounts around Christmas time. And when you have your hands filled, you open yourself to the criminal elements. You have all these gifts, you place them on your back seat. And not in the trunk. You flash large sums of cash. You portray and large sums of jewelry and so on. So we really want to remind the general citizenry to be mindful of some of these safety tips. And I want to start by at home, because they say charity begins at home more than it ends abroad. Right, so we want to encourage persons to secure their homes. Always lock your doors, windows, and gates before going out or to bed, right? So one of the things to adopt, you know, well, I will start with while you're at home, is before you go to bed, check all your doors, your windows, because you might be surprised that you went into the house and you were there all night and forget to lock the front door, you know. It happens. Or even the window, because though they might not be able to get in through the window because you might have burglar proofing and so on, they can fish things out by using a hook or a stick or anything for that matter, or even put their hands, right? So we want to remind persons of that, right? Avoid the electrical overload. So you buy all these fancy lights and so on, and you want to put all these lights on one breaker, right? So too many lights or decorations on one socket can cause a fire, right? Use timers or neighbor support. So if you are away, have a trusted neighbor check your property or use light timers. You can put on the lights to your external and internal surroundings from your phone. Or, I would have mentioned on several programs, there's a very cost-effective tool or device, if you want to call it that you can purchase in an electrical store, where you can screw into your socket, and you screw the bulb into that, and you automatically turn the exterior of your surroundings into a dusk to dawn situation where you can leave on your switch 24 hours of the day, 7 days a week. And if you leave home early in the morning, like most people do, and come home late at night, that device pretty much functions like a dusk to dawn light. It comes off at dawn and comes on at dusk.
And I also would assume you should be able to find similar things for plugs.
Yes.
Right? So, and this is where the Christmas lights come into play, so you don't have the lights going on for the whole day if you forget
Correct.
to
and
take
you also have, like, for your more expensive, for example, your dryers, your fridge, your television, and so on, the surge protector. So in the event that there is a power surge or the power keeps fluctuating, you do not want your television or your expensive appliances to spoil, or in some instances can even catch a fire.
Because given the demand for power in some communities, you know, that might cause instability in the power grid.
Correct.
You never know. Certain parts of the country I know has that already, and then with the addition of Christmas, it might, you know, compound it.
Well, generally, what it is always advisable before you move into a home, or at least once a year, you get your electrician to do a thorough check of your the electrical in the housing, and they may be able to advise you whether you have sufficient breakers in the breaker box there, or whether you need to upgrade.
Right.
So if you want to put in like your dryer and your AC and all these kind of things which pull a lot of electricity, it's advisable to consult your electrician before you do that. And a very simple thing that persons can also do too is when you are leaving home to switch off your pump, because you could have a excessive pressure in your line. While when you leave your pump on, you might come home to meet your entire house flooded out, which could create a domino effect for other things to happen. Right, so I'm just giving some.
Because yes, I know of a situation where there's a pump, and I believe because of the amount of ground it has to cover, it's more or less always on. So the problem is there's a joint right above of one faucet, more or less right above the pump physically, give or take, where I believe a lot of the pressure is focused on, and that valve always fails, that faucet always fails over time, right? Whereas at home we have it automatically shuts off once there's pressure in the line, so it only comes on when water pressure in the line drops.
Right. So your pump probably have what you call a smart head. That pretty much regulates.
Well, I'm not too sure how smart it is, because we've actually had that function for quite some time. So with regards to the old modern digital stuff, it might be a very simple thing, relatively speaking, or maybe it was called a smart head even then, but usually when you hear that term, you're thinking something very modern and fancy, and it probably isn't that fancy, folks, but it is reasonably very reliable, and it would prevent that sort of thing where overpressure.
Correct. So you are out shopping, we want persons to hide their valuables and their gifts, right?
Well, one question, you brought up something. Just the first thing, some people, they don't like the banks. They want to go Christmas shopping. So before you even buy anything, there might be some people that just have a way too much cash on them.
Yeah.
And how much is that a concern?
Well, it is a grave cause of concern because cash attracts the wrong eyes. So it's always advisable to use your bank, your debit cards, your credit cards, as opposed to walking around with cash. There are some places might not have the infrastructure or the machine for the debit or even the credit card. So in those, like the small shops or even persons who are selling on the side and so on, side of the road. So those things we understand you may require some level of cash, but it's try your best as possible not to walk around with a large sums of cash.
You don't need $10,000 if you're going to get trinkets on a roadside. So, but then there is also the fact that, okay, you might feel secure, you have cards, but you have to be vigilant because if your cards are stolen, the way how it works now, people can tap for a certain amount without knowing your PIN.
That's right.
Whether it's debit or credit.
And the person who you are purchasing it from may not be vigilant to look at the name on the card.
Yes.
As far as they are concerned, you have a debit card, just tap, they got their money.
Well, I mean, certain debit cards don't have names.
Yeah, well,
that's the thing, huh?
Well, that as well.
So, I mean, that's one of the things where you need to be vigilant because at the end of the day, the criminal elements are looking for any opportunity.
They are looking for any opportunity. Now, some persons, what they do is that they decide that you see today, I'm doing all my shopping today. I am dedicating today to buying gifts for everybody. So they want to capitalize on all the best deals because they put aside today to do all the shopping. Depending on how many gifts you have to purchase or how many shopping you have to do, it may not be advisable to do all that shopping in one day. Because what may happen is that you are going to find your two hands overloaded, you are going to find your back seat entirely full, and you may find yourself susceptible to the criminal elements. So what we advise persons to do is that it might not be advisable to do all that shopping in one day. And even if you choose to, still be discreet about it. Shop, make sure that you have at least one hand free, and you put all your gifts and valuables in the trunk, not in the back seat. Because you park up your vehicle, maybe in a secure car park or unsecured car park, and you have all your stuff in the back seat, you're going back in the mall to do, well, you finished phase 1, so you're going to phase 2. But the criminal elements are seeing that you have some wonderful, nice valuables on your back seat, unsecured.
Because you can't be guaranteed, given the amount of traffic in and out of the malls, that security will be constantly aware of everything that happens in every corner of the parking lot.
Exactly.
Now, the thing is, I get nervous whenever I have certain things in a car, like when I come from the airport, right? I'll be traveling with a lot of personal devices or medical equipment, and I don't necessarily want that. I don't want to go and be, let's stop off at here, and let's stop at there, and let's stop at here. It's like, no. I mean, clothes and whatever, all right, that's fine. And that's the thing with Christmas shopping, where I guess now, especially now, people might think, this is already 10 days of Christmas, this message doesn't matter to a lot of us. Now might be the time when people become even more complacent. Because they're scrambling, like now I have to do it all in one day. I don't have that leeway, right?
Yes, I do have that leeway.
Right? Unless, because this weekend, it's going to be a mess.
Correct.
So some people might say, all right, I'll Wednesday's the day.
Correct. So
right?
doing everything Wednesday.
But again, you run into that problem where the needs that you're seeing will now take priority over what might be your normal safety precautions. Is that part of it? It's like people might think, this seems obvious. But then now you have to juxtapose that Well, yeah, but the temptation.
The temptation, because this, on this day, I get in this deal. This ending today. So you say today is the last day. Now, if you are going to do that, it is advisable to go with someone else. Right?
Don't be by yourself.
So when you go with someone else, you would not have to be holding all these bags. You share the load, and you could still look around and look at your environment and so on.
Because when you first said that, I initially thought, oh, well, what if you get mugged and attacked? But there's also throughout the world, especially now, you know, videos about purse snatchers. And in this case, it does not be a purse. It could be, they take some of your gift bags.
Some.
Right? Maybe they see you purchase a phone because you wanted to buy one of your children a phone, right? And these days, there's no such thing as a cheap phone. So you purchase a phone, maybe an iPhone, maybe a fancy iPhone, right? And that's what they take. You have the rest of your stuff in your hand. Do you chase after them with the bags?
Exactly.
Do you drop the bags and chase after them and hope you don't lose the rest of your stuff? So I guess this is part of it as well. It's not just the fact that you're vulnerable to attack, it's also the fact that you're vulnerable for snatch and grab.
Exactly. So we want to remind persons of that. And some people get so complacent, of course, their mindset is a shopping mindset, not a safety mindset.
Yes.
And they may put all these things in the back seat or even in the trunk, but forget to lock the vehicle.
Yes. But also, because I know of a situation where, you know, a family member's truck got broken into. They had nothing in the truck.
Right.
It was a fishing expedition by whoever did it, and they took some random things like straps and random, like, it's not as though he had anything in the backseat, right? But now when you have a whole smorgasbord of cars in the parking lot, it's like, if your stuff is visibly there, and they may or may not have stuff in the trunk, well, whose car am I going to break into if I am part of the bandit association?
Exactly.
The surefire bet.
So you want to make your it is.
And then if your car's unlocked, even better, because now now it looks as though this is my stuff.
Exactly. So we want to encourage people to engage in target hardening, right? You may not be able to afford these fancy alarms and so on, but make sure your vehicle is locked. Make sure you have, whether it's a kill switch in your vehicle, because one thing, getting your valuable stolen is one thing, but it could go with the whole car.
Yeah.
You know that? So what safety feature do you have in your vehicle that could avoid that? Now, regardless of what safety feature you have, it does not mean that your vehicle will not be stolen, because all these safety features were created by men. So there are vulnerabilities. What you want to do is ensure you do everything to ensure that the bandit does move on to somebody else or nobody at all.
Yeah.
Right? So if you do have an alarm, you must have a kill switch. I mean, there's this thing that it has locked the steering wheel with, or the lever to change the gears and all that. So all those things is still at what you call a deterrent.
Yeah, it just makes it longer to try and get the car.
And the bandit want to move fast.
Yes.
So when he realized, look, you see this, I'm not wasting my time here. They may either, it could deter them to, well, we really don't want them to go elsewhere. You understand? To just forget it and go home. But some of them are persistent. So I continuously remind persons of the RAT theory, the routine activity theory, right? It speaks to three things. The motivated offender, which is the bandit in this instance, or the criminal, the lack of a capable guardian, as well as the victim, right? So the motivated offender, the suitable target, and the lack of a capable guardian. That is a triangle, so to speak, and the best way to break up that triangle is to remove one of the sides. And the sides that you are most in control of is you.
Yeah.
Your actions, what you do, what you don't do. Right? So we want to encourage people to not be a victim of the criminal elements as far as the routine activity theories is concerned. Right? Because you don't have control over all the other variables. What you have control over is you and your actions.
Well, to that end, there's still a couple of things on retail. One is, because we've seen it, of course, with regards to banks.
Right.
So I would think this is not giving criminals no ideas. I'm sure they figure this out. Well, we case it in stores. It could be a jewelry store, it could be a phone store, something where there's expensive things, but not like, oh, well, he just bought a 50-inch TV, right? That might be a little bit too much. But hey, jewelry stores, that's one of the stores in the malls that have been consistently there, persisting, right? And of course, they'll have high-priced goods. Maybe have somebody every now and then, you know, case the situation who buy what. Maybe have an inside person. I don't know. That's not saying that your jewelry store of preference has an insider that's going to sell you out, right? But the point I say is, when you take the whole day now to shop, you accumulate a lot of stuff throughout the day, and you'll go to multiple venues throughout the day, right? And it may be, if they're gonna follow you from the bank, they might follow you. Maybe they might say, hey, let's be patient with this one. Wait until later in the evening, right? And either see if, all right, throughout the day, maybe you go to a different mall and you're parking a more vulnerable spot, because when you go to the last mall or the second to last mall on your list, now all of a sudden in the afternoon, parking lot full.
Parking lot full.
Right? So now you take it wherever you could get. It might be one of those.
Side street.
A side street. Right. Might not even be any mall. A side street outside the mall or some corner of the mall parking lot, right? Where security might not have a presence right then and there. And now you coming out of this mall now, late. They might either take you there.
With your 2 hands full.
With your 2 hands full and all the stuff in your car from the previous trips. Or they might say, all right, let's follow this person further, because we know that they've done that. They follow people from the bank all the way to their home, right? Maybe they'll look to see, hey, maybe they'll stop off to have dinner somewhere, and we could just take the car then. Or we'll follow them home, and then we'll take everything then, right? We'll just take the car wholesale, because at that point, when we come up behind you as you reach your house, well, what are you gonna do? You can't lock up the car there. So there is that. But then there's also, and there's you being, as nightfall comes and you have all these valuables and you're still on your road and what movement you're making, be careful. But also the businesses that have a lot of cash sales, especially at the end of the night. So nighttime, I know it's Christmas, and in the past we would be complacent about it, and hey, you know, things cool, you don't have to worry so much, right? That might have been Trinidad to begin in the past. And I'm not saying that's the way it is now, but I'm saying maybe we should be concerned about this, because there have been situations in the past that says if you have a lot of cash and it's night and you do things like either, if you're not responsible with the cash, whether it is how you're gonna, you know, secure it, leaving it in your venue, like a lot of bad things could happen, especially now if they mark you as a cash business.
Well, there are so many things that you mentioned. So around Christmas time, sales usually are increased and heightened and so on. So you have a heavier cash flow where the businesses are concerned. And we encourage the businesses to hire extra security to not only secure your premises, but also to collect the cash. You understand? Armed security, escort, and so on with the armored vehicle and so on. So you would not have any large amount of cash staying in your business place overnight.
Yes.
Because that can also make you vulnerable. The other point that you raise is the criminal elements following people to their home.
And they could also follow business owners to their home if their procedures to take their cash home, which I wouldn't recommend.
And that has been known to happen in the past, which is not advisable. So I want us to piggyback on the point with the following you. We are still encouraging persons, do not withdraw large sums of money from the bank. So around Christmas time, in many instances, persons may be doing some renovations to their homes.
Yes.
Right? And they would hire persons to do those renovations.
Paint your house.
Yeah, to paint your house, to power wash your yard, cut your yard, even do some extensions, some change the windows, the doors, as the case may be. People generally...
They don't have links machines.
Yeah, people generally wait until Christmas time to do these things. Why, I don't know. Right? But that being said, the first thing there are 2 points I want to touch on there. One, hire reputable workmen.
Yes.
Right? So, hire reputable workers, because you never know what ulterior motive the workers might have whilst they are working on your house. That is one. The second point is, how are you going to pay them? Because if you are speaking about painting with the little knowledge that I have, is quite costly.
Yeah.
It might not appear so to the average person, but painting an entire house costs money because you're talking about material and labor, right? The painting, the white paint they had to put before the primer and all, it costs quite a lot. And more often than not, we see the homeowners paying those workers by cash. You understand? Which is quite risky.
Because even if it's a reputable worker, the point is, hey, so-and-so paint the house. They have to pay the workers.
They have to, correct.
They ain't doing it by check. They ain't doing it by links.
Yeah, and the workers themselves may very well innocently pass on information.
Yes.
Hey, boy, I see you painting. Hey, you're doing a real good work there, boy. How much will it go cost me to do a house there, boy? How much the house cost something there? And one of the workers might innocently.
Right, they're not even bragging. Because I thought you might say they might just say things, say too much. But no, the criminals will know how to fish.
Yeah, because when you hear, well, boy, that will cost that 30,000 or 40,000 or 50,000, that man of money.
I mean, I wasn't even going that high. I was just thinking I get maybe a couple thousand per house, right? So then they know, hey, this man flush with cash.
Exactly.
Because part of it too is the worker could be the target. In that they might wait for him to collect.
Exactly.
You know? Because if, say, he paid 5 houses in a week, just assuming he could get through one a day, right? He ain't spend all the money at once.
No.
Now, is he going to bank the money?
Because he also has to pay workers. So Friday, the bandit might say, well, Friday might be the best day because that is the day workers getting paid. So it's either I target the contractor or I target the homeowner.
Yeah.
So we want both parties to be very careful as it relates to the large sums of cash, right? The withdrawal as well as the payment, right? Be wise to otherwise. Ask the contractor, sir, do you have a bank account? Right? I am going to deposit the money into the bank account. Do you pay your workers? Or take a check, right? A manager's check to the sum of whatever, X or whatever the case may be, and you determine how you pay your workers.
I think there's a lot of that, right? A lot of payments, seasonal workers, temporary workers, and then like workers that do whatever jobs around various households. Everybody knows that there's a lot of that in cash.
Yeah.
So it's just going to automatically be a target. How they exploit it will depend on the criminals, but it will be something that they will look at and consider, and then it would behoove people. Just because you ain't hear of the crime yet doesn't mean it can't happen.
Now, of course, some of the persons who are listening would say, well, what about the workers who do have a bank account?
Yeah.
Because apparently still in 2025, it is easier to climb the northern range in a Category 5 hurricane than to open a bank account in Trinidad and Tobago, right? And we also have persons who are non-nationals who are here legally. I deal with those who are here legally first. I'm not calling any particular group of people.
Yes.
People who are here legally, so they are residents that don't have a bank account.
Yes.
And they have been employed by several persons throughout the length and breadth of Trinidad and Tobago legally. I'm dealing with the legal one first. They don't have a bank account. So even they are susceptible from the contractor to those workers where payment is concerned. Right?
And migrants might be a whole other target because you just know so much of whatever they're doing.
But it's actually migrants
is in cash. Yeah.
Cash.
Yeah.
Because they don't have a bank account.
They don't, right, yeah. No. And also, it's not like they easily could integrate in the system. So getting cash is just easier than trying to deal with all of that, you know, trying to learn the language, trying to learn their way around a new country. You know, even if they've been here for a couple of years, it's still not guaranteed that they would be fully integrated. And then whether it is the banks, state agencies being difficult, or the international compliance, you have what you have when it comes to opening a bank account.
Yeah, I mean, there is a well-documented report, I cannot remember who it was done by, that speaks to the ease of doing business in Trinidad and Tobago. And one of the things they mentioned is the length of time it takes to open a bank account, to register a business, and we could go on and on, right? That just makes you more susceptible to the criminal elements, right? But
well, I would like to transition somewhere, because I was talking about night, coming home late at night, shopping, maybe having too much cash on your person late at night for whatever reason, right, with your business or whatever. But of course, it's Christmas time, so the doors are open, and people come in by the house to enjoy. They come in with stuff in their hand. You have stuff in the house. Nobody's thinking about security.
Of course.
Leave the gate open.
Because you might be doing work in your house,
yeah,
and you have the front door and the back door open, or either or, because it's doors, there's all kind of stuff and so on.
Back in the day for the family gatherings in Christmas, the front gate open?
Yeah, the front gate is open. The back door open, the front door, because you're entertaining people.
Right.
And the criminal elements may use that as an opportunity.
And they're like, no, it's fine. But I don't know if we should take, because first of all, even if it's fine when everybody's there, it goes back to what you're saying. And then now, everything is open, and the night goes on and people start to leave, and you might forget to close something, but the point is it leaves you vulnerable. And then this is where we also could transition to the alcohol part of the equation, because then it's who drank too much to either you're driving home and you're inebriated,
you are correct,
or you're trying to secure your house when you're inebriated.
That too.
That and you work whole day because you're preparing whole morning and you're tired and you just want to get into your bed. So both ends of the equation.
So you might very well fall asleep on the couch, the front door open, the back door open. The criminal elements pounce on you. So we need people to be wise. And another thing that we have to be mindful of is how you dispose of packaging. So you probably bought a 50-inch TV, 60-inch TV.
Right.
And you deep freeze and you stove and so on. And the entire neighborhood knows, because you just place the box outside your gate for it to be disposed of. So everybody knows that Sean buy a 50-inch TV or a juice stove, as the case may be.
Rhetorically.
So what we would advise people to do is to cut up those boxes.
Yes.
Break it up and so on. Pack it, put it in a very large garbage bag, and black preferably, and put it by the side of the road, because for some reason when people see a box with 15 TV, they see dollar signs.
Yes.
Right?
Meanwhile, we've seen shacks with DirecTV dishes and big TVs. Doesn't mean that the people rich
has money. Correct.
That's where they just happen to spend their money.
Correct. Their priorities might be there. It doesn't mean they have money.
But it might fool some people to think, hey, that's a target.
Correct. So be mindful of your packaging stuff. Also, when you are disposing your old financial statements and so on, shred them.
Yes.
Before you put them in your garbage bag, because you never know whose hands it may fall into and what they might see and what impressions they might get.
Now, one of the things that I found interesting, I can't remember what it was, but the crime seemed like it was, they robbed some guys of, they had some people who were robbed of $7,000 between them.
Right.
They were liming in public. Don't know why you have $6,000 and $1,000 on you, on your person, liming in public. That could be an indicator of something that you may or may not have been doing. I'm not going to speculate any further into that. But my point is, we ain't talking 10,000, 80,000, 100,000, like what you see with the Facebook marketplace scams, which during Christmas...
We'll be coming to that.
Right, but what I wanted to get to is, don't underestimate how little of a haul criminals might go through all of this with guns, threatening violence,
for 500
harming people. Right, or listen, you have a party going on, they might come and just take your alcohol. True. They ain't even banking on any cash or valuables.
Absolutely.
The alcohol is worth it to them because it's $100 plus for a bottle.
And sometimes I just wonder how they work in order matching. 4 people rob 2 people of less than $1,000. How are you splitting that
exactly.
up? And it just don't make sense at all, you know.
Well, because then it's like,
to us,
to you, because you're thinking, I don't want to be having to do this every day. But to them, they might be like, we do this every day.
Every day.
Right? And that's why, listen, you on the street with your 3 bottles of rum, that might be enough. That's not even $1,000.
Correct. You are absolutely correct. So we want to go to, we would come back to the Facebook marketplace. So we're looking at safety now for workers and office staff around Christmas time. So I think this Christmas weekend is a long weekend. It starts from Thursday, I think. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
I haven't.
Yes.
That sounds great to me. I'm not gonna lie. That sounds great.
Well,
yes,
you are not
Christmas
alone.
is Thursday and Boxing Day is Friday.
Yes, so it's a long weekend.
Wow, folks, revel in it because it comes up, I believe, once every 7 years. This perfectly.
Or something like that. So
yes.
what we want to encourage people is lock away your laptops and important documents before the holiday closure. Okay, you might have sensitive documents and information on your laptop, and you may probably start to take your long weekend from the Wednesday, instead of the Thursday, and you forget to lock up your trust.
This is in your workplace.
Yes, in your workplace. So you want to encourage the staff and so on. Lock away the laptop, secure all your documents and so on before the holiday closure. So if you have office parties, which is normal around Carnival time, if you are drinking, arrange designated drivers or transport. There are a number of, well, it had the right share. I don't want to advertise to anybody. There are other companies that you can call to provide transportation and so on to transport your workers home. And
some people also, you take the number of taxi drivers.
Yes, and call them.
Just directly call them. If they're not available, they could put you on to somebody. So
yes, and I want to remind Trinidad and Tobago that the price for driving, the fine for driving under the influence of alcohol has increased. It was already passed in Parliament. I don't know if it was proclaimed by the President as yet.
I'll just say this. I understand if people want to look at reckon saying, oh, they just want to take money from the citizens. I could understand that at least to some extent. But you see drunk driving, certain tickets and parking tickets and stuff, that's when it gets into subjective scenarios, I can understand. There's no real subjectivity with drunk driving. So,
and it could be the most expensive drink you ever had.
Yes.
It could cost you a lot more than the drink. So
but
people
also the inconvenience, right? First of all, if you do get towed because you're parking in the wrong spot, legitimately. But if it was subjective, that's different. But if you're drunk driving now, even if you didn't wreck your car, well, that's you potentially being hauled to a station and your car potentially being impounded. The time, of course, to sort it all out. This is Christmas. You're already, part of your sin is being too complacent because you're rushing to try and get everything done.
Yes. Right. So,
so don't do it because you don't want any inconvenience.
Yeah, get a designation. Avoid sharing schedules publicly. So don't announce office closure or travel plans online. So what happens is this. This is the time of the year where some people choose to spend Christmas outside of the jurisdiction. You are free to do that. The entire office and the entire world doesn't have to know that John and his wife leaving Trinidad and Tobago to go and spend Christmas in the US or Canada or wherever you want to spend Christmas.
Even if you go from Trinidad to Tobago,
to Tobago,
once you're not at home for a few days.
Correct, for a few days. So what I encourage people to do, because I do it as well, and I drilled that into my wife very early when we got married 13 years ago. Do not post the pictures of your vacation whilst you are on it.
Yes.
You could wait until you come back. What difference would it make if you post it now and you post it a week later? Would it make any difference? I don't think so.
No, because some people want to be professional social media stars.
Yes, so we have the bloggers and
so they have to have the
real
real
content
today
in real time, yes.
and an update, and this is what we have for dinner, and then they will string it along because they want to have something.
Likes and so on.
Yeah, so while they're on the trip, after the trip, but the problem is while they're on the trip, they want the live updates.
Yeah, while you're on the trip. So for normal citizens, mere mortals like you and I,
and most of them are mere mortals who should remove delusions of grandeur, of social media grandeur.
Right, so the criminal elements are also on social media.
Yes.
And they are paying particular attention and making copious notes as to who is on vacation, who is out of the jurisdiction, who gone to Tobago, and as a particular Calypsonian may say, they may make a tack back to see what they could get and what they can. You could monitor your premises from any part of the world from on your phone. So cameras, CCTV cameras is good. Live good with the neighbor.
Yes, I was now going to say, you mentioned that.
To throw an eye on your place.
Yes.
You understand? So in the event of anything, you can get a phone call because WhatsApp work in any part of the world. You can get data in any part of the world, right? hear what's happening, how things going home there, or you could ask your children or some family member or trusted friend to check on your place for you, you know. Do not live in isolation.
We used to spend, when one of our uncles used to go away, we used to spend time in his place, kind of house sit for him as well, right? So which you could do that as well.
Yeah, because another thing though too is, and this just came to mind, so there are persons who may own more than one property. Nothing is wrong with that, once you get it legally and so on.
Yeah.
So they might live in the West, for example.
Yes.
But they have a beach house up in Mayaro or Grand Riviere or Toko. Nothing is wrong with all those things. But they usually visit that beach almost once a month. You know?
Well, they might rent it.
Yeah.
Depending.
No, renting it is fine. But if you are on, because you cannot be in two places at the same time.
Yes.
Right? If the beach house is under renovation or not, you know, operational and so on, you could make some arrangement to let the police know. Well, yeah, my name is John Brock. I use John Brock piano, but the name John Brock there. And I have a beach house in Mayaro. I live in the West or Central, as the case may be. I won't be around for a while. I will be out of the country. I don't know if you can monitor. I keep eye on it and so on. The police, usually during their town meetings and their station council meetings, encourage persons to communicate with the police to let the police know when they're out of the jurisdiction and they own this particular property and so on. So the police know, well, okay, from this time to that time, John not supposed to be here, but why is there somebody in John's house?
Yes. When there's something suspicious and there's the question of, well, is it the owner doing something? Well, now at least there's a greater chance of the police officer being aware. No, that's not the owner.
Yeah, because the police would have visited places already and meet criminals there, and they pretend to be the owner. You know?
Because like a neighbor might call or the police might say, well, what are you doing? Why look like you're breaking down this door?
Yeah, but the neighbor, the owner may be known or unknown to the police, and the owner didn't tell the police, well, I'm moving, I'm going out, or I'm going out of the country. So as far as they are concerned, I mean, the criminal elements are quite clever, right?
Yes.
They are very, very clever. So we want persons to be mindful of that. Work with the police to let the police know. We are not to know your business, where you're going, who you're going by, and all this kind of stuff. You know? But if you would be out of the country for any long length of time, let your neighbor know. Let a trusted friend know. Let a trusted family member know. Even let the police know, right? So, well, as I would have mentioned earlier, avoid criminals monitor social media for empty homes. Right? The Home Alone scenario. Well,
yes.
As it turned out, Macaulay Culkin was home alone. But as far as the bandits were concerned, they thought it had nobody.
Because that's what they were doing, empty houses.
Exactly. So, I mean, if Home Alone doesn't teach us anything at all, is when you're going out the country, tell somebody so they can monitor your home for you. Right? Of course, we want for persons who are traveling, carry only essentials. Keep cash, cards, and identification in separate, secure locations. So some person might have a purse or a wallet. You have your cash in it, you have your form of identification in it, and you also have your cards in it. So if the criminals snatch that, you lose your money, you lose your cards, and you lost your form of identification.
Also, your car keys.
And probably even the house keys.
Yeah.
So we separate those things. Because if you lose the cash, you might still have cards. If you lose the cards, you might still have cash. But if you use the cash, cards, and your form of identification.
But also, it's kind of hard to replace your car on top of everything else.
Now you could change your house keys.
Yeah.
But you can't replace the car.
Yeah.
Right? So people, be wise. Don't be other. Of course, secure your home before leaving. We would have mentioned that before. Check your locks, your alarm. Unplug the necessary appliances. So if you are going abroad, unplug your TV, well, except the fridge and the deep freeze. You could unplug the cable, the internet, your TV, your stove, and all this kind of stuff, because you would not be around for a while.
If you have smart cameras, though, maybe not the internet.
Right, correct. If you have the smart
fans
and your AC and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because you're using that while you're away. Right, for business persons, we would have mentioned, limit the cash and use electronic payment as much as possible. Vary your banking time, change your routine when making deposits.
Vary your routine, but also go during the day. Don't wait until the end of the day, like lunchtime. one day after lunch, one day just before lunch. Well, maybe not just before lunch, depending on when you're open. But like, get some of the cash out early.
And one thing I want to mention, around Christmas time, you also have a large counterfeit circulating.
Oh.
So be alert for counterfeit money. Verify large cash notes carefully. And there's the light, you can buy the UV light. And there's also the pen. Right there.
So let's just open up the phone lines officially, right? But there's still at least 2 things to get through. But you can call in as well if you want to have any questions. But there's 2 things I want to get to. One is a general question, but before that, I don't know if you have anything else, but Facebook Marketplace is just one of those things.
Yeah, we had to touch on that. And I want to touch on, well, if time permits, on how to look at, how to spot a scam, online scam.
Okay, yes, all of those things in one,
Spot on the online scam. So we are still getting reports. Persons are still falling prey as a result of the Facebook Marketplace.
Because people do genuinely get purchases done there. That's the problem, right? It's not all scams.
No, it's not all scams.
But then, you know, people don't necessarily know how to prevent themselves from being scammed.
So, I mean, you have to know how to spot the red flags. So to start with, anything that seems too good to be true, it usually. So if you say, well, I have an iPhone. I don't even know how much they reach an iPhone now. You all forgive me because I don't have an iPhone. I have an iPhone 15, as I said, I don't know where they reach, for $2,000, brand new in the box. I mean, that doesn't sound fishy to you?
Yeah, whatever the new iPhone is, it ain't going to be, and the latest and greatest.
It wouldn't be $2,000.
Yeah, and brand new in the box. Yeah, if it was used, maybe.
Yeah.
But
I mean, even used, I mightn't get it for $2,000. That is a red flag. And meet me in the middle of nowhere to make the exchange.
Yeah.
So why not in the mall? Why not by the police station? Somewhere that is populated and so on. Those things are supposed to be a red flag. You have a vehicle advertising. You walking around with $40,000 cash to meet somebody that you've never met in the middle of nowhere to make the exchange.
And to sellers, because sometimes it's at the seller's house, right? Which, okay, you're buying a bike, you're buying a surfboard, you're buying a computer, you might go to the seller's house. The thing is, I'd be kind of wary, because if I was a seller, maybe I don't want to have that done in my house, because then it's not just whatever that they want to take from me that they're not a real buyer of, then they might come in my house too.
Correct. Or they would know where you live.
Right. So as a buyer, that's not always a advisable thing, yes, right? Okay, we have Arima. We still have more to talk about this, but Arima, quick, good morning, caller, you on here?
Good morning to you and your guests.
Morning.
I love the program. Very educational, and the candor and the humor that the officer is using. Yeah. No, I want you and your guests to think about a scenario here. Because I'm feeling embarrassed as a black man. Now, in light of all the protests that we had in Tobago concerning this area, right? The 2 senior officials, which is the Commissioner and the Minister of Homeland Security, they're trying to push a notion that intelligence from this radar assisted in finding these drugs. Well, I want to ask them a question. How come America, who have hundreds of these radars, can't stop drugs from coming over the borders, coming through the Gulf of Mexico, or the Pacific Ocean and drug submarines? Because I find, well, for me that was hysterical. That was trying to blindside the population into really accepting the radar as it is. But the long and the short is that we need some more communication and some more honest communication from the people that we have who run in this country. Because yesterday I was reading a report from businessmen, a meeting of businessmen, and they were talking about plans in the event of, not that it would happen, but they having contingency plans. And in listening to this program this morning, I see similarities because we too have to have contingency plans when going out there. As usual, gentlemen, good program. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you very much for your contribution, caller.
I'll just say this. The thing with the radar, in general, we have to understand our situation with our borders is kind of bad. So obvious things that might not be applicable in other jurisdictions because the criminal element might not have those avenues. Certain things, not everything, certain things, we're open for business on those easily shut down avenues. That said, I do think that the perception of the radar is very political because partially we can't get full transparency, right? But also partially you need some amount of transparency so the people could carve a line of logic to follow. Otherwise, it just sounds like pie in the sky stuff. You're just saying things and we have no idea how to assess it. And unfortunately, what can be researched suggests that no, a boat in a swamp is not easily going to be tracked by a radar. So if you don't want to connect the dots, this is unfortunately, I don't have an issue with it, right? So, but people will, and that is the reality. The commissioner, unfortunately, he's going to be lumped into that because of that now. We have Shogun on Sunny Line. Caller, good morning, on here.
Yes, sir. Sean, what do you think autonomy means in government?
You have the right to make certain decisions on your own.
That I think that is half of it.
Right.
The next half is you are normally given the access to the revenue to do that. We hear Tobago talking about autonomy. And they want to do all kind of things. But you see they're not any revenue. They get all the money from central government. Now central government have to do central government stuff, plus they will see about local government. Now in Trinidad and Tobago at independence, all local government raise their own money to do basic infrastructural stuff. And if the government wants them to do anything extra, then the government will pay for that. And Tobago now is getting more money than all the local governments in Trinidad are up. That is what you call autonomy. And if you look at what's going on in Trinidad here, because of extra expenditure, they cut down CPEP and URP and whatnot. They continue with it to Tobago. As far as I'm concerned, that is a recipe for disaster. Any comments?
Not so much, Cole, because you're bringing in something that I don't necessarily want to say there's a year on your position.
Why is that?
No, it's just I don't have any disagreements per se, right? But I think I would want to comment on it a bit more to expand the conversation.
All right. Well, when you have time next week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, caller. So one of the things is, I'll just say this, the argument is the THA members or the TPP, well, there's gas fields around Tobago and that could finance autonomy. My only issue with that is, well, what happens when that runs out, right? Now, the private sector of Tobago, there's a lot of potential to build that up because Dutch disease basically meant tourism. We talk a good game about tourism, but have we as a nation really looked at tourism? And Tobago has a lot. What Trinidad and Tobago as a whole, because of all of the various natural sites and attractions of both islands. But Tobago just by itself has a lot of untapped potential and appeal. And, you know, in a strange way, being separated kind of gives it that little extra spice, you know. It's that hideaway that not only Trinis will go to, but also when you come to Trinidad and Tobago, yes, and it's a separate island. And I think a lot of it, you're talking about revenue. One of the things that I thought about is Tobago autonomy brings up the question of local rights for local ordinances. Right. And it's hard to say, well, you know, what about a local law in Toco for X or a local law in La Brea for Y? But Tobago is somewhat separate, right? So how do you treat that? Because the THA is technically local government, but its responsibilities are greater than any other local government body. And that's, I guess, the balancing act. I would say, Professor, don't try to define autonomy for yourself. The autonomy needs to be defined by the people who's making the argument, and then we could start from there.
Quite interesting, quite an interesting argument and this discussion. And of course, anytime the issue of Tobago comes up, I pay close attention because I am from there.
But I mean, you would agree with me, right? There's so much more that could be done with tourism and the private sector in Tobago. And I guess that's the trick. Will autonomy help it in the short run, and then the economy could stand on its own feet just off of its private sector alone in the long run?
Well, what I could tell you is this. I would have had the opportunity to travel to many of the Caribbean islands. And I think we are somewhat behind as it relates to tourism.
But not just that. When you compare Tobago with so many islands, from just what the features of the Central Range gives Tobago, right? The various reefs and corals and the birds.
There's over 200 plus species.
Yes, there's some ridiculous amount of birds between both islands, right? And bird watchers go to Tobago. Is this a thing that we have encouraged and made a tourism attraction? No.
It is definitely something that one could.
Well, sorry, they do have it, but I would argue there could be more.
Yeah, more. But, and while you're on that point, we also have to look at safety and security, for example, for the farmers, for example, because we do have a large farming community in Trinidad and Tobago. So we want to encourage the farmers, not only around Christmas time, but throughout the year, to secure their livestock and their equipment. And theft, because what generally happens, for example, I grew up on 5 acres of land. It is very costly to fence and secure 5+ acres of land. It is not practical.
Especially when some people want to travel through your land and they climb over your fence, they damage your fence, or they vandalize your fence.
It is going to cost a lot of money to secure 10, 20, 30 acres of land. So your land is pretty much exposed, and it is exposed to the criminal elements where predial larceny is concerned. But even before we get this, so the theft tends to increase during the holiday because men looking for it, as they say. So they may raid your banana, your orange field, your whatever you have that is in season at the time is the criminal elements. It attracts the eyes, right? So we want to, I was in a meeting with some persons from the Farmers Association, and they were farmers, and they were giving some rather interesting tips as to how you can protect and secure your predial produce. Some use a pin, different color pins, they stick it in their produce and so on. So in the event that persons are stopped by the police and they are questioned as to how they came about, because under the Predial Larceny Act, it is one of the acts where the police can search your vehicle without a warrant. Right? Once you have, well, you must be in possession of a memorandum of sale. Once you have 25 kgs in or more of predial, but that's about this over 50 pounds, right? And you have to give a reasonable excuse. You have to tell the police or give a lawful explanation as to how you came about this predial produce. So it's either you are a farmer with a farmer's badge, and the police, you have to produce that. You purchase it at the farmer's market. They would give you the receipt, of course. Once you are in excess of 25 kgs and over and so on. And if you are unable to satisfy the police can seize those predial produce, arrest you, detain the vehicle, and all that kind of stuff, right? You, the farmer, now, how you come in to identify that is your predial produce? So what they are saying is that you can use different color pins, the red pin and the blue pin and the green pin and the yellow pin and so on, to stick that into some of your predial produce. So you could say, you could let the police know, well, officer, this is mine, because on so and so day and so and so time I stick X amount of pin, color pin for the plantain and the pumpkin and the melon and so on, and I took pictures of it. It was in the possession of so and so and so. I could identify this as my predial produce. On this particular day when I went to the land, I observed X amount of produce missing. I made a report. So basically the challenge with that is that most people usually go to the wholesale market at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. You understand? You might not be able to get onto the owners of the alleged owners of those predial produce that hour of the morning. So therein remains the challenge. But things like your tools and the machine, you mark them. Mark your tools. You understand? Write down the serial number have it done.
But this is also one of those things where, you know, your neighbors, fostering community, looking out for each other, because that's the thing with farms in the countryside, crimes, it's just, you know, yes, urban areas, suburban areas, but also rural areas, they all have their risk factors.
Yeah, and one of the biggest challenges is to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, no, one of the initiative that was started in Northern North or Northern Central under the senior superintendent there is having the mounted branch.
Okay.
Patrol on horseback, of course.
Well, we have Kokorit on the line, caller. Good morning, you on there? Caller? Good morning, you there?
Yeah, good morning.
Morning, morning.
Morning,
yes, yes, I just have one question. I know around this time, you know, the police service will be patrolling and sort of protecting these citizens from perpetrators, whatever, right? But time and time again, we just see when police making arrests, we just see about 5 police officers trying to arrest one perpetrator, and sometimes, you know, like they just have a challenge apprehending the individual or putting him in a handcuff. You know, you just people taping it, and it just looks so disgusting and unprofessional. So, so do you all brief your police officers of how to carry about arrests like those? Because it looked very unprofessional seeing 5 police officers trying to you know, put one individual in a handcuff, and people just be taping this and making memes out it, you know. So I think it's something that need to be addressed, because it makes the police service so look kind of unprofessional and kind of their duties now. So
what was it that the police were doing?
That I noticed, right? So maybe you can address it and, you know, and bring some light to it.
All right, thanks very much. I wanted to get more information, but I'm not sure if you could have heard me, because it very much depends on exactly what the police officers are doing.
Correct.
Because,
so
well,
when it comes to an arrest, you have the compliant suspect and the non-compliant suspect.
Right.
So the compliant suspect, you know, the police identify themselves, tell him of the offense or the offense is committed, and tells him that he's under arrest, and he complies, right? Puts him in handcuff, him or her, place them in the police vehicle, and they drive to the station. You have the non-compliant suspect who decide, well, not me the boss, you're not arresting me today. Today is Friday, I'm not taking no lockup today.
Yeah.
Right, and it's a long weekend, the boss, not today. I'm not going with all you. Right, so that is the non-compliant suspect. We are guided by a use of force policy. Right, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service use of force policy. And that use of force policy determines and dictates how the police or law enforcement officers should proceed in treating with a non-compliant suspect. Because once the suspect is non-compliant, then you've added force or the necessary force is required to place that suspect under arrest and to place him in the police vehicle to transport him to the station.
Because that's subjective, right? With regards to how much force at what point in time.
Well, the use of force policy dictates and guides that. So one officer tries to arrest him, didn't get through. Another officer comes to his assistance to render some level of assistance. Now, mind you, what the caller is speaking about there, this is not unique to Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, it's around the world.
It is around the world. I would have seen many videos of law enforcement officers trying to apprehend or restrain a non-compliant suspect in the United States, Canada. You name it, in all the democratic societies. And it is not going to look pretty, because the person is non-compliant.
And here's the thing, because this could go so many ways. When you have 5 officers, it is easier to incapacitate the individual without injuring or hurting them with 5 officers as opposed to 1 officer.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
And then now, in the past, the policies in some jurisdictions, this is how we got Rodney King. The policy was, well, beat them into compliance.
Well,
basically, right? To some extent, right?
We know how that went.
And yeah, that didn't go well. So now what? If the person is resisting arrest but is not fighting to punch you or whatever, it's not as though you could knock him out to arrest him. So that's why, okay, now we have to hold him down with 5 guys because he's not allowing us to cuff him, right? But then now we have to also understand, because I remember seeing a video where 2 officers tried to detain a suspect. He was bigger than them. Eventually, he was being aggressive.
Right.
So they tased him. He did not go down. And the longer it went on, the concern was, and I think he basically made a move and they ended up shooting him. It was all on camera. I believe they were cleared because it just, at some point, you can't take it for granted. Well, if he's going to be this aggressive, he's going to stay here.
Exactly.
And not going to reach for the gun.
Things could go from 0 to 100. Eh? So you could start with the verbal command, say you are under arrest, I am placing you under arrest, and so on. I'm not going with all you. So we move from verbal commands, verbal persuasion now, to we have to physically seize the body, take hold of you, and so on. You are resisting. Now, resisting arrest may not necessarily mean that you are being violent towards the officer, similar to what you just said, or you pull out a firearm or a knife.
Right.
But at the same time, the fact remains you are still under arrest, but you are not complying.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So what does the officer do in that case? Continue talking until, how long are we going to remain?
I mean, arresting is not a negotiable position.
Exactly. I love that. It is not negotiable. Well, okay, seeing that today is Friday, we're going to hear the blind.
No.
Right? And check with Monday.
So we have to close that there, but essentially, caller, it's objective. So it's without knowing any details, it's hard to give specific explanations.
Correct.
Because there are situations where police officers in other jurisdictions, I saw they pulled a guy paralyzed out of a car. It could have been a dramatic retelling of a scenario, right? But the point is, he's like, stop resisting. It's like, I'm not resisting. My weight is dead because my legs can't move.
Right.
So there's always so many different aspects in each individual case.
Correct.
Just want to close. I was going to ask this as a question and make it more expansive, but I guess to just make the statement, people should not underestimate. Criminals will do criminal things on Christmas Day.
Correct. Well, around Christmas time.
But Christmas, there's no sacred day.
No, it have no sacred day. They're robbing the church, but they have the priest, and they rob the church.
In fact, the church also needs to be aware, hey, all your stuff for the poor and whatever you collect Christmas Eve, be careful with that. With that said, thanks to the callers, and well, no comments today, but thanks to the callers, thanks to Inspector Callender for joining us to have another one of these talks that we will always have, because we always have to have it, to try to remind everybody to be vigilant. I know it might seem paranoid and an oppressive way to live, but hey, better be a little paranoid and safe than complacent and sorry.
I just want to take the opportunity on behalf of the Commissioner of Police and his executive to wish all of Trinidad and Tobago a happy, holy, and safe Christmas.
Folks, this is Talking About on WSN, reminding you to stay safe, right, in all things. Don't drink and drive in 2025. Hey, haven't had that in a while. So, remember your allegiance to the Republic and to each other. Be our brothers and sisters keepers during this Christmas vacation especially. And we will see each other, though, tomorrow. Bye-bye.
WESN.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. Welcome to the program here on WESN. Let's tell you what's happening. We're talking about developments having to do with the presentation of the